So with that, I'll introduce Erika Kemp, the Strategic Initiatives and Innovation Division Director at Texas DOT. Take it away, Erika.
All right, thank you, Ted. Good afternoon and good morning to everyone who is on the call. I'm going to talk first real quick about the I-10 team that has been working together, the I-10 Coalition. It is a coalition of 4 states, so Texas West, including New Mexico, Arizona, and California. And that coalition came together specifically for a grant request for truck parking. We are talking at TxDOT and to the other states about how potentially to move eastward and create an I-10 coalition to work on these transcontinental corridors. However, that is still in the, let's just say that that's still in the planning stages. As far as the grant, which was around truck parking, we are on target to actually launch a pilot in early 2026 with 16 locations within the state of Texas. So Texas has taken the lead on that. And then we will continue to deploy the truck parking solution westward. The other alliance that we've been working on is the I-35 Advancement Alliance. If we want to go to the next slide. We have only had one meeting since we brought the states to one in-person meeting since we've brought the states together. And we too are working on primarily governance at this time and how the states will work together as to what we want to achieve. So we have been working on an MOU or a memorandum of understanding that has a proposed vision of realization of a digital infrastructure and transcontinental connected corridors throughout the 6 states that are part of the I-35 corridor. We do have Iowa, which connects us to the I-80 corridor, and then I-10 here in Texas. That is the connector there. As you can see from the graphic here that I-35 is extremely important to the country because it goes right up the heart of the country, much like I-80 across that northern portion of the company and I-10 country, and I-10 on the southern part. If we go to the next slide, we've identified some similar goals as to what Tracy was talking about with the I-80 coalition and of course with TET over on the East Coast. And really looking at feasibility, what can we implement across the entire corridor in alignment with the other corridors, looking for that regional cooperation and interoperability, developing the technologies and the standards and the protocols. And again, having Iowa in both the I-80 coalition and the I-35 alliance and having Matt Miller as the lead on data has been extremely helpful because then we can just build on that together. So you're really having 2 corridors solving for the same issue working together, and I-35 and I-80 would deliver something similar. Movement of people and freight. I'll show a little bit more about that here in just a minute. And then engaging transportation, manufacturing, and technology sector. How do we serve them across the corridor? And of course, investigating long-term sustainability. If we go to the next slide, you know, the importance of I-35, as I mentioned, it comes up the heart of the United States. Here in Texas, we present it as Main Street, Texas. But there's growing population, growing employment along this corridor. There are key economic sectors on the corridor. Right now, I'll share with you about the binational automotive manufacturing cluster that's coming up from Mexico into Texas, and further research we want to do on that type of cluster of opportunity to understand how this movement from Mexico into the United States is impacting I-35 in totality, not just Texas. The growing cross-border truck trade. And I'll just tag onto there the autonomous vehicles, the autonomous freight that can now cross the border. And of course, the growing freight tonnage as a lot of the other countries are importing into Mexico and freight is coming up through Mexico, not just into the US ports. Going to the next slide. You'll see the 6 states that are along the corridor here: Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, and Minnesota. It also connects some very major cities from San Antonio to Austin, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, Oklahoma City, Wichita, Kansas City, Des Moines, and then Minneapolis, St. Paul. So I-35 runs from the border at Laredo in Texas all the way up to Duluth, Minnesota. So it really ends in the port there at the Lake Superior. Next slide. And this slide is just to share with you work that we've done in Texas that we're going to then expand on for the I-35 corridor. As I said, looking specifically at the automotive manufacturing industry, what manufacturing is occurring in Mexico, that international trade that is coming up I-35, not just into Texas, but then how is it going to go upwards on I-35? And other studies that we've performed have shown that the freight coming in, whether it's at the ports of Texas or the international border, you would think it would go up I-35 and then go east and west across I-10, where really it goes up 35 and it starts to go out on I-80, moving over into the northeastern part of the country and over into the northwestern side of the country. So we're going to be doing more research on this as part of the Alliance. And then lastly, specifically around transportation, what have we been working on? We are looking at the 3 items that are highlighted here with red stars, very similar to what Tracy just presented that I-80 is looking at. From a truck parking standpoint, as I said, here in Texas, we already have a pilot going on I-10, but how do we move that then over to I-35 and help move that northward? We also know that Kansas has been a leader in truck parking. And how do we leverage the work that the Kansas DOT and the Kansas Toll Authority have been implementing? From a work zone safety standpoint, we looked at the work zone data exchange, which is where the states and the DOTs are sharing information with FHWA that can then be shared out with other parties. And we found that 5 out of the 6 states already on I-35 are sharing their information with the work zone data exchange. So how would we help that 6th state to ensure that they start sharing that information as well? And then digital infrastructure and data exchanges. As I mentioned earlier, this is where within the Texas DOT and I-35, we have Matt Miller in Iowa, and we're partnering with him so that we're leading that effort, and it solves both on I-35 and I-80. With that, Ted, I will turn it back over to you.